So we go on to Deputy Seán Kyne, who was question number 13.
Questions to the Minister if he will carry out an inventory in relation to coastal defences with a view to having a rolling fund for such issues that may arise with coastal defences.
Thank you, Minister.
The primary objective of government policy on coastal protection is to ensure that in areas identified as being at greatest risk of damage or loss to economic assets through coastal erosion or flooding, appropriate and sustainable measures are identified by local authorities to protect those assets, and where intervention measures are economically justified on cost-benefit grounds and compatible with all environmental requirements and other statutory requirements, they are implemented subject to the availability of resources. It's not practical to provide coastal protection to the entire coastline. The Irish Coast Protection Strategy Study is a major examination to assess and identify the most significant areas of erosion and erosion risk for the entire national coastline. This programme assists with the identification of areas potentially at risk from coastal flooding nationally. The OPW, in conjunction with its consultants, has prepared and published strategic coastal zone flood hazard maps. These coastal flood hazard maps have been prepared for the current and two future scenarios, mid-range and high-end, associated with sea level rise in the context of climate change. The mid-range future scenarios represents the flood hazard based on a 0.5 metre sea level rise in 2100, while the high and future scenarios represents a 1 metre sea level rise. This major study provides invaluable and essential information required to inform coastal protection policy. I'm conscious of time, so I leave a chance for the Deputy to ask a question.
Thank you, Deputy. We'll just have time for one supplementary.
Thank you, Minister, and I'd like to acknowledge the engagement of the Office of Public Works with, and indeed Minister Harris, with Galway County Council on a range of issues on the issues of flood defences. As you know, last year there was a series of storms, and you know the old proverb, what is it, a stitch in time saves 9, and expenditure now can save future expenditure down the line, and there's plenty of examples of that where issues had been identified by local communities for a long time. Funding wasn't available because was it the OPW's responsible, was it the County Council, was it the Department of Environment, was it the Department of Marine, and you know there's particular problems that a small bit of expenditure could have prevented major expenditure last year. There are ongoing problems on private property also, for example in Dogs Bay, which is a world-renowned area near Ballyconneely and Roundstone in Connemara, which is private, where there is no money for it. And indeed there's been no money identified at all for the second round of storms that took place in February 2014. There was money and there was quick engagement in January 2014 storms, but not the February storms. So there is ongoing issues, and I believe if there is an inventory on behalf of the local authorities and that these areas are identified, that you could put in place a rolling fund to the OPW for protection of existing defences.
Thank you, Minister, to conclude.
I hear loud and clear what the Deputy is saying, and I think there's a lot of merit in what you're suggesting. I'm very conscious that in the context of the new capital programme that I'm working on, that there are a number of overarching issues. One of them will be how to address climate change into the future, and that will be not only on the coastal flooding and storm damage front, but also on the looking at rivers and protecting communities that are prone to flooding. I think that will require significant funding into the future, and it's something that we will have to have regard to in future plans, and I certainly will have regard to what the Deputy has said.
That concludes question time.